Hello, it's December 22nd, 2009, and I'm trying to make kolachi and keep a record of how you make kolachi. I got my mother's recipe, the way she explained it to me, and the numbers that I used to try to straighten out what it meant. And then her recipe was for 2 pounds of walnuts, which was a more traditional amount to get back in the day, but now at Costco the packages always have 3 pounds of walnuts. 3 pounds. So at one point I rewrote the recipe for 3 pounds of walnuts. Kolachi for 3 pounds of walnuts. And somehow I wrote it so that I actually need both these things, which is appropriate in order to do it. I tried making this once this morning, but I used unbleached white whole wheat flour, King Arthur flour. Someone at a place I go who is a wonderful baker said she often uses King Arthur flour, so when I saw it I got it, but it didn't really work. So I just, in fact I'll show you how it didn't work. The dough came out inelastic. Well, it's not too bad actually. It's not too bad. I'm going to make it into, probably I'll try to make it as rolls or bread, because it's got a lot of eggs and sugar and butter in it, so it's hard to just pass it up. There's 3 packets of yeast worth and probably 14 cups of brown flour. Flour was white, but the dough came out brown, and I just felt like it wasn't going to handle right, so I put it aside over here to in a warm place to rise, which is tricky because I'm going to need that bowl in a little while. I'm going to have that bowl. It's the only one I have of a suitable size to mix the dough in. Wish I had a basin like my grandmother would have had, you know, something about like this, if you can tell. Anyway, I'm using this bowl here because the other bowls are occupied, and I'm going to measure out 10 to 11 cups of white flour this time. Last time I knocked it off with the knife to make it level. This time I'm not going to bother, but you got to keep count. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll get it out here like this. 5. Halfway there. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Now those were quite full ones. I'm going to put the 11th. And the reason is that it's not precise. At the end of the day, when the flour is being added, you'll be judging the quality of the dough, the elasticity, and how mixed in it is and everything. You'll see in a minute. But you determine how much flour at the end by the quality of the dough itself. I'm going to just clean off the counter a little bit. Clean as you go is a good idea. Okay, now kolachi is something that my mother and all her sisters made, and I started helping her. My brothers helped over the years. My mom's family was Slovak, Ruthenian they called it, from the eastern part, from eastern Czechoslovakia, if you can see me here. In fact, I'll stop trying this again. Into the flour goes, let me look, 1 teaspoon of salt for all this flour. It's a little silly, but that's the way it goes. I'm going to get the salt. I often wonder, here's some salt, just regular salt. I don't use sea salt or anything, or kosher salt, because I want it to be the finest salt so that it will mix up better. I have a spoon here for mixing. I've still got a lot of the tools and bowls and things out that I had assembled for the first batch that didn't work. Just trying to get the salt so it's not all in one place. Obviously a slightly bigger bowl than this would be handy, huh? Alright, so I was saying that this is a traditional dish. My father's family, which is from the Dolomites, the Italian Alps, they made something that had all the same ingredients, but the dough was rolled thinner than this, and it came out as a higher cake-like thing in a round usually, whereas my mother's come out as long jelly roll types, and my mother's and everybody else who goes to the same church. Okay, the next thing I need to do, I'm going to put this aside, and the next thing I need to do is make the butter, sugar, and egg part. And I'll just wipe this out a little. Not long ago, this contained butter, sugar, and eggs, and from my failed attempt. So that should do it. And it's, for 3 pounds of walnuts, it's like it's a stick of butter. You know, a normal stick, like this. A stick is half a cup. Stick of butter per pound of walnuts, so 3 pounds of walnuts, 3 sticks, or a cup and a half of butter. I left the butter out overnight to soften, and on my first batch it was the exact right amount of softening. This time, like, time has gone by and it softened a little more. Partly the reason it softened is because although it's a particularly cold day here in LA, it's I've heated up the kitchen. I closed the kitchen doors, I turned the oven on, I cracked the oven door open so that I would have the warmest possible environment. The yeast won't grow if it's the wrong temperature. You'll see the yeast part in a second. And the dough don't rise if it's too cold. So 3 sticks of butter. 3, let's see. Next comes the sugar. And butter, 1.5 cups of butter, 1.5 cups of sugar. So it's the same way to figure this out. I think I'll get the half cup measure. So it's a half cup of sugar for each pound of walnuts. You know, making enough dough for 3 pounds of walnuts. You see, we're not a big sugary household because my sugar's actually gotten lumpy from sitting around. I like buying fresh flour. A little more won't hurt. Okay, put this out of the way. Putting things back as you go is a big, big help.